I started my first business at 8 or 9 years old. I employed the neighbour across the road. I gave him a cut and I took a cut off the top and he did the work. So I was very much an entrepreneur from a very young age. Translating that into an adulthood, for me, it became an addiction. It was a way for me to find a sense of identity. I found myself and lost myself all at the same time in my work. And that was something I had to have a real journey with. And I still feel I have a balancing to do with that, but I have got a lot better. But I do always say I don't have children. So, I think that does help. It's one of those things to reflect back on. And yeah, definitely, as I went into my adult years, it was all about achieving. I built a 7-figure tech company in under 2 years. I was sitting on boards as the youngest woman on boards, ASX listed companies. I was, won awards that were recognised by the Prime Minister and, Telstra Businesswoman and all sorts of different, Financial Review, got all these amazing accolades. But what was so interesting is that it didn't fill me up. I did all that, but it didn't actually fill me up in the heart space the way that the work I do with ELMA does. The work I do with sound therapy does. It's these elements of being able to give wholeheartedly to something that really feels like you're making some kind of difference, or even if it's just a tiny bit. Like it'll be a tiny shift in the needle, but I'm seeing it on the ground with children and I'm witnessing the change. And that to me is priceless. And no amount of awards or no amount of anything is going to ever do that. So I reached a point in my life where it wasn't about ambition anymore. It was about alignment. And that's the point that I've got to. So I went through, and I think it's very normal for us in those 20s and 30s. It's all about building. It's natural for us to want to build our life and settle down and, acquire, succeed. So it's sort of that kind of bracket of time is not unusual to people. But when it shifts is where you really start to step into alignment. When you realize it's got nothing to do with ambition. Who are you proving it for? When I would work so hard, it's like, who am I doing it for? What am I trying to prove to who and why? And a lot of that was because I did in my earlier days when I was working 16, 18-hour days, hospitalized from exhaustion. I worked so hard that, I realized that I did all that and it didn't matter. None of that mattered. In the end, I did all of that, but for who? And it came down to this. I did it because I thought to myself, as a child, I felt that through growing up in the environment that I wasn't loved, I wasn't heard, I wasn't seen, I wasn't accepted. As an adult, I translated that through the addiction of work to say to people and let the world love me and say, see, you appreciate me. I'm worthy. I'm enough. I am loved, and it was this whole reflection, big mirror of self-worth. And it was like, who am I doing it for? I'm just doing it because I want to be loved and accepted. I want to be acknowledged and seen and heard and valued, which were the very things that I felt I didn't have a voice when I was younger. And all of those things played out in how it was I was attaching my identity to my work. And so as I began the process of unraveling that identity, it really, and it meant what I did was I went into almost isolation for 18 months and I started taking on different practices and I just stopped and I sat in the quietness. I also voided myself of any temptation that I was wanting for 18 months, chocolate, whatever, any of it, whatever the human temptations came up, I didn't allow myself to have that because I didn't want, it's a bit extreme, probably wouldn't recommend it, but it's just my style. And, I would do this and I did it because I did want to disconnect from the very thing that made me always go out to fill me up, looking out to fill me up. And I was like, if I can just void myself of any temptations, then all I'm stuck with is this. And I've got to look at it, and I've got to go through the dark night of the soul. I've got to see the elements of me of why, what is it? When all of that is gone, when no one is looking, who am I? You know, when there's no audience, when there's no one to please, who am I? And that's where I took it to. And I stepped into that real quiet space of self-inquiry, and it completely transformed my life. And it made the shift from ambition to alignment. So now when I do things, if I get rewarded or if I get recognized, it's great, it's lovely, and I'm grateful for it, but it's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I just relate so much in my own journey to what you're talking about there. And it is, yeah, I guess it's about finding something that's bigger than you, that you care about, that's not about self-gain and a cause you genuinely care about. And for me, when I really established a path in the mental health awareness sort of area, I eventually found it so relieving, because it was always about I was initially on TV shows and wanting to get more fame, and then businesses, and I want more of this. And I was always just so anxious and never felt right. And it was always about the future and getting to this thing. And then when I decided I just want to make a change in this area, it doesn't matter in what way though, whatever it is. And then it becomes so much more tangible, because you're not measuring it by external things. I'm doing it right now by having a conversation with you, and you can then incorporate it into your day, and it's just, a nicer way to live. So,
well, it's more fulfilling. It's Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and it's it's that sense of finding a deeper purpose. My favorite saying is, the purpose. This Pablo's one. It's the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of life is to give it away. When you step into the first phase of your life, it's all about acquiring the gifts. What is it? So it's natural for you to go through that. So it's, go through that, step into that, have the contrast of that, and then you step into, okay, now how do I give this away? And that to me is the most fulfilling thing you can do. I get so much joy out of buying someone a gift and giving it to them and watching their face, and just that sense of giving, but without the attachment to anything. So to give without attachment, it allows us to detach from ego, even though I still say it's a healthy bit of ego is fine. Having a good relationship with our ego is good, but it helps us step away from just being kind without an agenda.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing. Like you're saying, we're all get caught up in the, in the ego and chasing different things, but we actually get more for ourselves if we do things for other people, or if you do it for, trying to give back, or whatever the reason is. So if we looked at it from a selfish perspective, you're actually going to get, a lot back. So it's a good way to frame it.